Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the week that was, the yesterday that was.
Yesterday that was. It was a long day.
Especially for you. I'm Austin the Stash. Joining me now is Melanie Wilkinson
Hi.
from JustMelanieW.com. And yesterday was election day.
Wow, was it ever? The polling locations here in York County were busy.
Yeah.
All day long.
All day long.
And those workers, God bless them, because when they came into the courthouse last night delivering their ballots, they looked tired.
I'm sure they did.
And some of them have been doing this for a very long time, and they said this is one of the busiest election days that they've seen.
Really?
Even though 30% of our voters here in York County already cast ballots.
Right, with the early voting.
Before election day
wow.
even happened. So right off the bat, that was interesting. So when they counted, so I was there,
Yeah,
and
doing your thing.
The clerk's office is receiving ballots, counting them. So right off the bat, we had 2,336 early votes that already
just
have
boom,
come in.
we're already
Yeah,
in.
so that's really heavy.
Yeah.
So that showed right there that it was going to be quite something. So we ended up with a 75% turnout.
Wow.
Here in York County, which is
That's really impressive.
Really good. Now, presidential elections are usually a higher percentage of turnout, but I think they usually range here about 62%. But you know what drove, I think, this local turnout was the school bond issue.
Yeah, that's the real big one.
That was the big one.
And what happened?
It passed.
It passed.
It
there
passed.
we go.
Yes. So early voting when that first total came in before they did the election day counts, it was close. It was only 764 people had voted in favor and 696 voted against it.
So about 70 difference.
So I thought, maybe this is going to be pretty close. Well, in the end, 2,255 people voted for and 1,862 voted against.
So not as close as originally thought, but not a landslide by any means.
No, so it's going to move forward. I had a brief little conversation with the superintendent at 3:15 in the morning. And I had texted him. I said, hey, you're probably asleep. But I just thought I'd let you know that the bond issue passed, and he said, "Oh nope, wide awake," smiley face. So I'm sure there were quite a few people that were waiting around. The counting did take a long time because there were just so many ballots.
Yeah.
So I think the clerk's office ended about 1:15 a.m. So
1:15 a.m. Goodness gracious,
that's when the
time.
counter finally stopped moving. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, power to them for being able to keep on going and getting the results done.
Yes.
Because, not everywhere is able to do that.
No, and there's been election nights where it's gone till 4 or 5 a.m. So yeah, they got it done, but it was quite something.
Yeah, and going back to the 75% voter turnout. I remember there was a time where people were excited for a 45% voter turnout. Obviously not here. Here is more. It has always been a little bit more.
Little bit, but sometimes in primary elections, we've seen as low as 18%, 22%.
So the fact that so many people were invested and so many were.
And York County, we have a lot of registered. There's registered voters in all kinds of different party affiliations in York County, but it is predominantly Republican. So as you can imagine, then when you looked at all the federal races that were decided, they were largely Republican here in York County.
The things that had the Republican versus Democrat, it very much kind of
it did, and so York County
pattern.
pretty much fell in with the rest of the state. As far as that goes. One thing that I did find really interesting, even that said that we have different party affiliations, a lot of nonpartisan declarations, but York County voters were overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump for president. There was 5,200 people voted for Trump versus only 1,600 for Harris.
That is
so that really shows what the mindset is here in York County.
For sure.
So anyhow, that all said, and of course then too, following in that same thing, York County largely favored Deb Fisher, Pete Ricketts, Adrian Smith.
I was really curious how that Deb Fisher, Dan Osborne thing was going to go, especially because there were so many ads. I mean, on on my station, Cool Radio, on Max Country, pretty much everywhere. The two ads I saw were Deb Fisher and Dan Osborne.
And it was almost constant at the end. Didn't it seem like that? It did early on in the night, as far as what we could see watching the Secretary of State's office, because everybody's counting at the same time. So I'm not quite sure how some of these counties can declare that they're done so fast.
Well, some counties have like 800 people.
Well, okay, thank you. That could very well be.
That's definitely part of it. And say there's 800 people in a county, and then there's like 500 of them are registered voters, and only 75% of them come out. All of a sudden, it's pretty easy.
All of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, these counties are done." Oh my God, the boxes haven't even hardly been carried in here yet. They're still Boy Scouts are still hauling in the grocery carts. Like, how are these people doing this? So, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But so, on another note, now these are uncontested races, but I still find them interesting to know. So, Leroy Ott will continue as county commissioner for District 2. And he pretty much won the race in the primary because he moved on. And then Joe Burgess, who is 18 years old, will be joining the county commissioner board, representing District 5. He graduated from York High School this last spring, and he's going to...
I remember...
Have we talked about this before? I don't remember.
No, we haven't talked about this, but remember Cool Radio does a not a debate, but like a forum.
We did the forum.
We did the forum.
Yeah.
And I remember this kid showing up, and he hadn't graduated yet, or he was about to graduate.
He was still in high school.
Yeah, while he was running, and we put him right next to the oldest candidate. It was the funniest thing. It was him, and then
I do remember.
I can't remember who the other candidate was.
I can't either right off the top of my head.
But he was like 78 years old or something like that. And so it was just so funny seeing these two people running for the same position. He won. He won the election.
He did. Jack Sykes did not seek re-election, and there were 3 candidates in the primary, and so Joe will be making sure to be in York on Tuesday mornings because he'll be sitting on the board. They'll take the oath of office in January. So then, meanwhile, that same note. So we did. Barry Redfern will still be the York mayor. He ran uncontested, and which I kind of imagined that would be the case. But when I was looking up some information, just out of curiosity, I've been here in York County since 1998, and all of a sudden I realized, Barry Redfern, he's been either on the council or mayor as long as I've been around. So I went and looked it up. He was appointed to the York City Council in 1996.
Okay.
He served that entire time on the council then. So now this will be his second and a half term as mayor. So Barry has really served the York community for a very long time.
Very long time, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. But
almost my entire life. I was born in 1994, so.
Oh my God. You're so young.
It feels so nice to hear that. I turned 30 in October, and everyone has been like, it's downhill here now.
Oh my God, I feel so ancient. Oh God. I was even reflecting last night. I said, you know what I just figured out? This is the 7th presidential general election that I've covered in my
journalistic career. Yeah.
And I thought that, then you have all the primaries in between, all the special elections in between.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm so tired. I kept thinking, wow, it seems really late. Must be the time change. Nope, just old. Just old.
Just been doing this a while.
Long time.
Very, very good.
Okay.
But Mayor Redfern will be mayor again.
Yeah, for 4 years. And then there'll be okay, so 3 people on the York City Council will be retaining their seats, and that'll be a guy named Jerry Wilkinson.
Man, I wonder who that
sounds
guy
familiar.
is. Yeah,
anyway, I've
heard of that guy before somewhere.
He'll be starting his second term, and then also retained will be Jennifer Shepard and Tony North. And joining the city council they'll take their oath in December, will be Jeff McGregor.
Okay.
He'll be a newcomer. Matt Wagner was initially on the ballot, and then he withdrew his name later. And so there were only 4 candidates running for 4 seats. So that's how that shook out in the end.
Gotcha.
So, yep.
Very nice.
And then do you want to just kind of talk about what York County thinks about marijuana?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So there were a number of, I don't know what they're called, I guess.
Initiative measures.
Thank
yes.
you. So 434 there was 434 versus 439. That was the abortion
correct
stuff.
And that was an interesting situation where they were
they both technically passed.
They did.
However,
right.
because because they're both talking about the same subject matter. One is going to supersede the other one
correct.
Because it received more votes.
And that would be 434. Right.
Yeah. And
overwhelmingly for 434, York County voters, there was 4,655 for, 2,190 against.
So landslide there.
Yeah, so that kind of fell in.
Real quick, what was the voting for 439?
439 in York. For was 2,278, and against was 4,574.
So it was pretty flip-flop.
Right.
Well, I was really curious about that because in order for there to be like that kind of thing where they both pass, some people had to have voted yes for 434 and yes for 439.
Yes, that's what was so confusing. So yeah, and I can see that there might have been maybe some confusion, but
sure,
or maybe I'm not really clear.
There's some people that may have just voted yes
and
on
they just didn't
and just went
right. Right.
They wanted the sticker, they got their sticker kind of thing.
Yes. We'll talk about something interesting about that.
Okay.
But okay, so then moving on, 437. Medical marijuana.
Everybody smoke up. It's in 420, baby.
I don't know if you can smoke up. You're allowed possession of up to 5 ounces, which I think is, I don't really know what 5 ounces of marijuana looks like.
I'm not a smoker,
but
so I don't know.
Right now, the law is that you can, if you have less than 1 ounce, you get caught with less than 1 ounce, it's a class 1 misdemeanor.
Right.
So I guess it's a little bit more than, but you have to have a prescription.
Yes.
From a doctor. So I got to thinking about this.
Okay.
So doctors, I understand they can prescribe all kinds of different drugs and things like that.
Sure.
Well, but where are these dispensaries going to be?
What a wonderful question.
Well, it's not like I can just run to
a local pharmacy,
Charlie's or Walgreens or Walmart and pick up my pot.
Yeah.
Can I?
I don't know. That's a wonderful question.
I don't know. I started thinking about that. I thought, okay, so you can have, if a doctor says I can, here's your prescription. Well, where do I go to get it?
Where do I go?
I'm sure they'll pop up, but will they? This isn't recreational marijuana.
The answer is yes, they will, because I lived in Florida when they...
Even just for medical purposes.
Yes. So Florida, actually, they did not pass the recreational... That was a big thing, was that the recreational marijuana was on the ballot this year, and they said no to that. But they do have medicinal marijuana is allowed. And so they have specific dispensaries that... are not like if you go to Lincoln, you see like the I don't know what the businesses are, but there's a ton that's like the green leaf and there's this and whatever. Right. It's not like that. It is much more medical pharmacy like, but it is weed specific.
Okay. Oh, all right. On that same note then, can you go to a drugstore, like a drugstore that already exists?
In Florida, no.
Okay.
In Florida, it specifically was, there are
a certain
specific dispensary pharmacy is like the best way to describe it. This is a place where you go, you take your prescription, you are able to get medicinal marijuana in a number of various forms.
Okay.
So
that's true. You're not necessarily smoking joints.
Sure, they aren't.
You're taking like medication.
Well, that's
right?
the thing is that the prescription is for marijuana. It is not necessarily for how much. It is not necessarily for whatever. It's not necessarily for like you are given this much to smoke every day kind of thing.
Okay,
it is truly a you are allowed to smoke marijuana is basically how it worked in Florida. Now that being said, Nebraska could be different.
Well,
Nebraska could
you
do
have
things
to walk
differently.
around with a prescription. That's
And so, but it was the kind of thing where I had a buddy who was basically a dealer for other people, not me. I was not taking part or not incriminating myself here. But I had a buddy who was basically a dealer to everyone else because he had a medicinal card. And he could get basically whatever he wanted. He got edibles, he got joints, he got all that sort of stuff.
Now, on that same note, though, Initiative Measure 438, and I haven't really looked at really close at this language, but it did approve the regulation of it.
Right.
But in saying that, this is interesting. So you have the one that says, yes, you can have it by prescription. Yeah. Then there's the other one that says, should it be regulated? Well, in York County, 3,412 people said, yes, it should be regulated. But 3,045 people said, nope, don't regulate it.
Really?
Yeah, I happened to notice how close that was.
That's wild.
Maybe York County just wants to
just smoke up.
Just let's just live and let live.
Listen, 420 blaze it.
So all right, we're getting off the marijuana train now. Okay,
my bad.
And just one more initiative measure was the 436, which requires businesses to offer earned sick leave.
Yeah.
So it passed.
It did pass.
In the state.
Yes.
And York County fell in line with that too. 4,000 were for, 2,300 were against.
Interesting.
Yep.
And then the only other thing was the private school.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Basically, it was the thing where there was a measure put in where you could appeal, or you could say, I'm sending my child to private school. Correct. And you could receive a tax credit for their tuition, and that was repealed. It was repealed,
and that was very close in York County. That referendum measure, 3,230 people voted to retain it. 3,336 voted to repeal.
Yeah.
So that was really close here.
Very close. Yeah. Very close. And it was close across the state.
Right. So it was, there was a lot to vote on. And I'm still working on all of the village board races. We had a bunch that were contested. I'm just still doing a little math,
working through them,
but I'll have those done probably by 10:30. So.
Well, there you go. So be sure to check out justmelaniew.com.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories already on there. So
a lot of stories are up there right now, and more will be added. So be sure to be on the lookout for that.
Did another election.
Woo!
Election day has come and gone.
Oh, and so have the political ads.
I think a lot of people are probably relieved that it's done, and everybody spoke their piece.
The votes have been turned in, and now we have an outlook on what life in Nebraska is going to be like moving forward. So it's very interesting times here in Nebraska, I tell you that much.
Correct.
But if you have any questions, Melanie Wilkinson has stories up on her website.
Yes, there's a lot there.
There's a lot there. So be sure to check all of that out. And of course, even though this election has come and gone, we hope that you stay involved with all things going on in York County.
Absolutely.
So that way, when the next election comes around, you will also turn out to vote in big numbers.
We're going to do it again in 2 years.
Oh, it's so much sooner than I thought it was going to be. Goodness gracious. Thanks so much for listening. This is the yesterday that was.
Yesterday that was.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks. Have a good day.